Well, hello and welcome to this session. What I'm going to address today is an area I think that's not well understood as the function that it is, and that's risk governance. Now, we all understand the term governance, or we purport to understand the term governance about how organisations are directed and controlled. Well, risk management needs the same governance approach because ultimately the inputs of risk, and particularly at the operational level, are going to inform risk decisions or decisions made at the higher levels. So you need a governance structure over the top that identifies or is able to assure that A, everything is being done, B, that the inputs that are being provided are of a quality that allows decisions to be made, and that C, those decisions are actually being made, and all of the reporting and so forth as required is moving up the chain. Now, I've seen models where we look at first line of defence, second line of defence, third line of defence, where the first line of defence is our risk owners, where they understand the inputs that are required from them. The second line of defence is the line management, and they're challenging. They're challenging the assumptions, they're challenging the inputs, the data that is being captured by the risk owners in their risk registers. And then the third line is the external, which is either a third party or somebody within the organisation, like your internal audit organisation, that's looking at the fact that, well, whether you are compliant with what you say you were going to do in your risk policies, and B, how mature is your approach to risk management. Now, what we also see is a whole range of committees that are set up. But what we need to make sure in those risk and audit committees or governance risk committees or whatever you want to call them, what we need to make sure are those people on those committees have the necessary levels of skill to A, challenge what's put in front of them, and B, make decisions around the information that's put in front of them. Simply having an audit and risk committee doesn't necessarily mean that you have that. You need to have those skill levels at the board or at that committee level so they know what they're looking at, and B, they know how they interpret it. What troubles me are the examples that I'm seeing from some organisations where the same things are being reported up the chain 6, 12 months in a row as a monthly or a quarterly report, and nobody along that governance chain is challenging to say, well, hang on, why am I getting the same risks at the same level all of the time? Because by definition, we should be, if those risks are outside of our risk appetite, we should be doing something to bring that risk level down. And if we're not challenging the people to ask, well, what have you done about it? Why is it at that same level? Why haven't you brought that risk down? Then the audit and risk committee and the risk governance structure is just in name only. It doesn't add value to the organisation. So regardless of the level of the quality of the inputs below, the reporting becomes reporting for reporting's sake. So if you've got an audit and risk committee and you really don't have a very sound risk management framework, then my question and my challenge to you is, what does your audit and risk committee do? Because if you don't have a framework, an effective framework, your internal audit is not aligned to your risk management framework, and therefore it's not a risk-based audit approach, even though you might call it that. So essentially what I'm saying is, and it goes with the blog that I talked about, skilling, at all levels of the organisation, you need to understand what it is that you're looking at, and what do you want to do with it? And if there's no action or there's nothing happening as a result of that reporting, it becomes reporting for reporting's sake. The people down below get disenchanted with the risk management framework and it starts to fall apart. The risk governance aspect is an absolutely critical part of the effectiveness of your risk framework. And so you need to think about those governance structures, but you also need to make sure that everyone in that chain has the necessary level of skills to be able to take part and to be able to do their part. That's all I've got for this session. I hope you found it informative, and as always, let's be careful out there.